On the morning of the event, the village square of 𝐼𝐻 was packed. Warriors and chiefs came with drums and horns. Musicians played loudly. The king sat on a throne made of carved wood, surrounded by village elders. A white circle was marked on the sand for the wrestlers. Strong men stood ready, covered in palm oil and ash, showing off their muscles. The crowd clapped and cheered as each one flexed their arms. Everyone waited for Doyin's grand entrance. A small group of girls sang her praises. Doyin the beautiful, Doyin the light of 𝐼𝐻, she shall choose from the best of men. Then, silence. The king stood and called out, "Let Doyin, daughter of 𝐼𝐻, step forward and greet her suitors." From behind the curtain, Doyin appeared. But when the men saw her, they gasped. She was not the same slim beauty they had heard about. She had returned to her original size. Her clothes were tight. Her arms were heavy. The glow on her skin was covered in sweat. One by one, the men stepped back. One shook his head. Another whispered, "This is not what we were promised." Slowly, silently, they all began to walk away. Doyin stood frozen. The same people who once laughed at her were now laughing again. Her heart shattered. She turned to run. But then, a voice called out, "My prince, your father is ready to leave now." Doyin turned. Her eyes widened. It was 𝐼𝐻. But he was no longer in his simple wrapper and drum. He stood in fine royal cloth. Gold bangles on his wrist. A fine cap on his head. He looked like a true prince. Because he was one. His father, the king of Osupa, stood beside him, waiting. 𝐼𝐻 turned and looked at her one last time. Their eyes met. But he said nothing. He bowed slightly, and walked away. And Doyin. She stood in silence. The only sound left was the beat of the drum in her memory. The square was quiet now. The crowd had gone. The drummers packed their instruments. The dancers stopped moving. Only the sound of a lonely breeze passed through the trees. Doyin stood alone, her heart heavy like a stone tied to her chest. Her mother, 𝐼𝐻, rushed forward. "My child, come. Let us go home." But Doyin did not move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the road where 𝐼𝐻 had disappeared. She replayed the moment again and again in her mind. His royal clothes. His calm face. That gentle bow. He had seen her, and still showed respect. She had lost him. And now, all she had left was shame. That evening, Doyin sat in the corner of her room. Her wrappers were loose on the floor. Her headscarf had fallen off. The mirror lay face down. 𝐼𝐻 brought food, but she didn't touch it. "My child," her mother said softly, "you must eat something." Doyin shook her head. "I don't want food. I don't want anything." Tears rolled down her cheeks. 𝐼𝐻 sat beside her and took her hand. "You made a mistake, Doyin. But that does not mean your life has ended." "I chased him away, Mama," she whispered. "The only person who ever saw me as more than my body. He wanted to marry me before I became beautiful. He danced with me when no one else even looked at me. And I threw it away." 𝐼𝐻 held her tighter. Sometimes, pride closes our eyes. But when we open them again, we see the truth. The question now is, what will you do with what you've seen? Doyin didn't answer. She sat there all night, watching the moon crawl across the sky. The next morning, Doyin left the house early. She wore a simple wrapper, no beads, no makeup. She walked slowly to the mango tree. The place where it had all started. The wind blew softly. The grass moved gently. But the spot was empty. No drum. No rhythm. No 𝐼𝐻. She sat under the tree and closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then louder, 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐤, if you can hear me. I'm sorry. The only answer was silence. She stayed there for hours. When she returned home, her sister stared in surprise. You're quiet, one of them said. Doyin didn't reply. She helped 𝐼𝐮𝐫𝐤 in the kitchen. She swept the compound. She greeted the neighbors politely. But inside, her heart remained heavy. Everywhere she went, people stared, not because she was beautiful but because they remembered what happened at the square. That's the girl who changed and forgot herself, they whispered. Doyin heard it all. And she accepted it. Days turned into weeks. 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤 did not return. He sent no message. The drumming spot remained empty. And Doyin slowly began to understand something important. Love is not about shape, or beauty, or power. Love is about how someone makes you feel in your weakest moments, and how you treat them when you're strong again. She had failed that test. One evening, she walked to the stream to fetch water. There, she saw a group of girls dancing under the moonlight. They laughed, clapped, and jumped with joy. Doyin sat on a rock and watched them. She smiled a little. Then slowly, without thinking, her foot tapped. Once. Twice. Then her arms moved gently. One of the girls saw her. Come and dance with us, Sister Doyin. Doyin stood slowly. And for the first time in many weeks, she danced. No drum. No, 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤. Just her. Her heart. Her steps. Her joy. The girls cheered and clapped. She laughed. A real, deep laugh that filled the night air. Maybe she could still be happy. Not because others said she was beautiful. Not because someone played a drum for her. But because she remembered who she truly was. Later that night, as she walked home, she stopped near the main road. A royal caravan was passing. Guards in fine wrappers. Horses. Torches. At the back, she saw him. 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤. He sat quietly, looking out of the window of a royal cart. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Doyin stepped forward, hoping he would stop. But the caravan kept moving. She stood there, frozen. Then slowly, she waved. 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤 didn't wave back. But she saw his lips move. And though she couldn't hear him, she was sure of what he had said, goodbye. The next morning, 𝐼𝐮𝐫𝐤 found Doyin sweeping the compound, singing softly. You're singing again, her mother said with a smile. Yes, Mama, she replied. Because I want to start over. 𝐼𝐮𝐫𝐤 nodded. You are still young, my daughter. Life has many pages. Just make sure the next one is better than the last. Doyin smiled. Her heart still ached, but it beat with new strength. She knew she might never see 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤 again. But she also knew she would never make the same mistake twice. A new season had begun in 𝐼𝐮𝐫𝐤 village. The rains had started falling gently at night, washing the roofs and blessing the farmlands. Crops were growing, streams were full again, and flowers bloomed in every corner. Inside 𝐼𝐮𝐫𝐤's compound, something else was blooming, hope. Doyin was changing, not just on the outside but deep inside her heart. She now rose before sunrise, tied her wrapper firmly, and helped her mother sweep the compound. She no longer waited for servants or sisters to cook for her. She was the first to pound yam, grind pepper, and set the firewood in place. Villagers began to notice. That's Doyin, one woman asked in surprise at the stream. She now fetches water herself. Yes, another replied. She greets everyone too. No more pride. Some people still mocked her past, but most were starting to respect her. They saw a young woman who had fallen, learned her lesson, and was trying to rise again. Her mother smiled and said, that's how a woman begins to shine. Not by waiting for the world to clap but by dancing her own dance. Doyin remembered the mango tree. and she smiled. That evening, a knock came at their compound gate. Titi, the youngest sister, opened it and ran in, shouting, "Mama! Doyin! There's someone here asking for you." Doyin stood up quickly, her heart beating fast. For a moment, she thought, could it be 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐵𝐷? But when she walked out, she saw a different man, a stranger. He was tall, well-dressed, and looked a bit older. "Good evening," he greeted politely. "I am Chief Oletu's messenger. My master would like to speak with your family." 𝐼𝐴 stepped forward. "What does he want?" The man smiled. "He has heard of your daughter, Doyin. He wishes to take her as a wife." Doyin's heart sank. "Chief Oletu," she asked. "Isn't he the one with many wives?" "Yes, madam," the man replied proudly. "But he says there is room in his heart and house for one more." Doyin looked at her mother, unsure of what to say. 𝐼𝐴 replied gently, "Please give us time to think and pray." The man bowed and left. Doyin went back into the house, her heart confused. She sat quietly on her mat and stared at the floor. She remembered the first time 𝐼𝐶𝐬𝐵𝐷 spoke to her. She remembered the music, the laughter, the kindness in his eyes. And now, a chief she had never met wanted to marry her as his 10th wife. Was that all she could hope for now? Was that her only option? That night, Doyin sat outside under the moonlight. The wind was soft. Crickets chirped. She tapped her fingers on her knee, mimicking a drumbeat. Boom-ta-ta, boom-ta-ta. Then she stopped. She whispered to herself, "I may have lost the one who truly loved me, but I won't lose myself again." She stood up, took a deep breath, and walked to her mother's room. "Mama," she said, "I don't want to marry the chief." 𝐼𝐴 looked surprised. "But you said you wanted to start over. This man is wealthy. You will never suffer." "I know," Doyin said. "But I want more than food and cloth. I want to be loved. Even if I never find that again, I would rather stay alone than be just another number in a rich man's house." Her mother stared at her for a long time. Then, with a soft smile, she said, "You are truly becoming a woman now." In the following days, Doyin kept herself busy. She joined the women's group at the village square. She taught young girls how to cook, how to dance, and how to respect themselves. She laughed more. She moved freely. And for the first time in a long time, she felt light. Not because her body had changed, but because her spirit had healed. And while she did not know what the future held, she had made peace with her past. She walked by the mango tree again, not to wait for anyone, but just to sit and enjoy the breeze. Sometimes she danced a little. Just for herself. One market day, while buying beans and palm oil, Doyin heard a familiar sound. A drum. Her heart skipped. But when she turned, it was just a young boy playing for coins. She smiled at him and dropped a few cowries into his plate. Then she walked on. Because this time, she wasn't chasing a drum or a man. She was walking forward, with grace, strength, and hope. Life in 𝐼𝐴 village had started to return to its gentle rhythm. The rains came and went. The farms were green again. The markets were full of laughter, sweet smells, and loud greetings. People sang while pounding yam, and children ran through the streets, splashing water from puddles. But just when everything felt peaceful, trouble returned. It started as a whisper. They say people in Ijona are falling sick again. At the edge of Kit, a man dropped while walking to his farm. Osupo village closed their market yesterday. The wind carried fear from one home to another. Then, one morning, the sickness entered 𝐼𝐴. A young boy who had traveled to Ijona returned with a cough. By evening, he could not stand. The next day, his sister complained of pain in her chest. Suddenly, everything changed. Markets closed. Houses locked their doors. No more greetings. No more laughter. People stayed indoors and prayed. It felt like the dark days had returned. And just like before, the border gates were shut. No one was allowed in or out of the village. Doyin sat by the window of their hut, watching the once lively streets turn silent again. She wrapped her arms around herself and sighed. Not again. The fear. The silence. The sickness. It reminded her of the last time, when she had fallen so ill that even lifting a spoon was hard. And now, she feared the same would happen again. 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵 tried to keep the family calm. We will be fine, she said, boiling herbs every day. We must keep clean and pray. But despite all the care, after a week, Titi, the youngest sister, began to cough. Doyin's heart jumped. Oh no. Not Titi, she whispered. They gave her herbs. They used hot water to steam her chest. But Titi grew weaker by the day. One night, as Doyin sat by her sister's side, feeding her small spoons of pap, she felt something strange. Her own head was hot. Her arms were shaking. Her legs felt heavy. She touched her forehead. It was burning. By the next morning, Doyin could barely walk. She lay beside Titi, both of them coughing, their eyes red and their voices low. 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵 cried silently in the corner, watching her two daughters struggle to breathe. She sent for the village healer, but he said the herbs were no longer working. This sickness is different, he said. It is faster. It is stronger. Doyin could hear their voices, but her body was too tired to move. Her dreams were strange, full of drums, dancing, and shadows. She saw herself under the mango tree. But she was alone. No music. No 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐿. Just silence. Then, she saw him. Standing far away, watching her. She reached out, but he faded like smoke. For weeks, Doyin fought the sickness. She could not eat. Even a sip of water made her feel sick. Her body grew thinner and thinner. 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵 would hold her hand and cry. Please, my child. Don't leave me. You are my heart. Neighbors stopped coming to check on them. Everyone was afraid. Only one woman, Mama Dupe, a strong herbalist from Osupa, risked visiting. She came wearing a cloth over her mouth and a basket of roots. She will be fine, she told 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵. But you must be patient. Her strength is low. Every day, she gave Doyin bitter drinks. She rubbed her chest with hot oil. She placed hot leaves on her head. And slowly, very slowly, Doyin began to improve. One morning, the birds chirped loudly. The sun poured through the cracks of the hut. And for the first time in many weeks, Doyin sat up on her own. Her mother gasped and dropped the broom she was holding. Doyin. I'm hungry, Doyin whispered. Tears filled 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵's eyes as she hugged her daughter. You will eat, my child. You will live. Mama Dupe smiled from the door. She has crossed the river. She will return stronger. In the days that followed, Doyin grew better. But something had changed. She looked in the mirror, and almost didn't recognize herself. Her body was smaller than ever. Her round cheeks were now sharp. Her arms were slim. Her wrapper, which once struggled to tie around her waist, now hung loosely. Is this really me? She asked, touching her face. Her sisters looked at her in shock. You're now finer than all of us, Titi joked. Even 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵, though still worried about her strength, couldn't hide her smile. Your beauty has surprised even the wind, she said. Her sisters looked at her in shock. You're now finer than all of us, Titi joked. Even 𝐬𝐵𝐵𝐵, though still worried about her strength, couldn't hide her smile. Your beauty has surprised even the wind, she said. As Doyin began to walk around the village again, people whispered, "She's even more beautiful than before. Look at her skin, it glows like morning dew." Men who once mocked her now watched her closely. Some sent gifts. Others sent sweet words. But Doyin said little. She smiled politely, but in her heart, she felt confused. Where were all these people when she was sick? When she had no strength? When she was still large and lonely? And most importantly, where was 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐻? One night, as she lay on her mat, Doyin stared at the stars through the open window. She whispered to the wind, "Do you think he still thinks of me?" But the wind gave no answer. Only the rustling of trees. Only the silence of a girl who once danced for love, and now wondered if love would ever return. The sun rose gently over 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐻 village, spreading gold across the rooftops and waking up the sleepy earth. Birds chirped from the trees, calling one another joyfully. Life was slowly returning to normal, and so was Doyin's strength. She stood in front of the small mirror in her room, looking at herself. This time, she didn't frown. She didn't cry. She simply stared. Her body, once full and wide, was now slim and curved like a river path. Her face, once round, now showed her cheekbones clearly. Her eyes looked bigger, brighter. She tilted her head slightly and smiled. "I look different," she whispered. Titi entered the room and gasped. "Oh, Sister Doyin, see how fine you are. Even I want to marry you." Doyin laughed. "Silly girl. No, I'm serious. You're finer than all of us now. People in the village are talking. Even Mama said you look like a queen." Doyin sighed gently. She appreciated the compliments, but part of her felt uneasy. Why did people only love her now? Where was their love when she was lying sick in bed? Where was their respect when she was full-bodied and cheerful? Why now? Later that day, Doyin walked through the village for the first time in many weeks. Women stared with wide eyes. Young men rushed to carry her basket. Old men at the palm wine hut whispered as she passed. "Is that Doyin? Oh, see how she's shining. She was once like a big bag of yam. Now she's a bag of gold." Doyin heard them all. She kept walking, head held high, smile soft but careful. At the market, traders offered her fruit for free. "Take this pear, beautiful one. Or, no need to pay. This is a gift for your smile." Doyin accepted their kindness but remained quiet. She didn't want to forget what she had gone through. The pain. The rejection. The mockery. And the one person who stood by her when no one else did. 𝐼𝐸𝐵𝐻.
I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Also turn on your notification to get more enchanted tales like this one. Goodbye.